There is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Imagine a seeker lost in the digital desert of modern life, carrying an empty vessel. They wander, searching for something to fill it, not realizing the thirst isn't just for water, but for meaning. That desert, for many, is our existence today, a place of profound loneliness, relentless pressures, and an ever-widening disconnect from our true selves. When the inner ache becomes unbearable, it's natural to seek relief, a small escape from the chaos. But what happens when these fleeting exits become invisible prisons? Today, we explore one of the most fundamental questions of the human condition. Why do we relentlessly seek to escape our realities? Whether through substances, compulsions, or seemingly harmless habits, this behavior has deep roots in philosophy and spirituality. Carl Jung, one of the 20th century's most insightful thinkers, believed that addictions weren't mere character flaws, but expressions of a wounded psyche trying to fill an inner void. And here's the question that guides our journey today. What are we truly searching for? If you've ever felt like you're chasing something without knowing exactly what, or if you've watched someone trapped in a self-defeating cycle, stay with me. Let's explore together the mysteries of the mind, the spirit, and the answers we so often seek outside ourselves, but which have always resided within. Think about the daily lives of those around you. How many are genuinely at peace with themselves? For many, daily life is marked by routines that mask a deeper restlessness. From that glass of wine that helps you unwind, to the habit of endlessly scrolling through social media, our small daily escapes seem innocuous. But what if these moments of flight are symptoms of something larger? Carl Jung said, "Modern man cannot see the soul because he looks for that which can only be found within." For him, our addictions and compulsions are merely reflections of an internal imbalance, a disconnection from our own essence. This imbalance often arises from what he called the shadow, the repressed aspects of our psyche that we don't want to face, yet still control us. Now picture this scenario. You're at the end of a long day, mind fatigued, body exhausted. The urge for an escape arises, binge watching a show, indulging in a sweet treat, or perhaps something more drastic. In that moment, what we seek isn't pleasure, but relief from something deeper, something we can rarely name. Why does this happen? This question isn't new. From the ancient Greek philosophers to modern thinkers like Jung, humanity has tried to understand why so many feel empty, even when everything seems fine externally. But the truth is, this void isn't about what we have or don't have. It's about who we are. And here, our journey begins. Let's go beyond the superficial. Let's explore the roots of this behavior, and more importantly, how philosophy and spirituality can help us break this cycle. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change how you see not only addiction, but yourself. Imagine a woman named Claire. At 47, Claire seems to have everything she could desire: a stable career, a comfortable home, and a loving family. But in the quiet nights, when she's alone, she feels an inexplicable weight. This void that consumes her isn't something she can explain, not even to herself. That's why she seeks comfort in small habits: a glass of wine to switch off her mind, another episode of her favorite series to postpone bedtime. Over time, these habits stop being choices and become compulsions. Carl Jung called this an escape from inner reality. According to him, when someone feels disconnected from their true essence, they seek something to fill that void. But the truth is, none of these external fixes can solve a problem that arises from within us. This disconnection isn't unique to Claire. Think about how many people, maybe even yourself, get lost in these small daily rituals to escape a larger anguish. Jung believed the human soul constantly seeks meaning, and when it doesn't find it, it resorts to shortcuts that offer momentary relief but ultimately lead us further from our true nature. Now reflect. How did we get to this point? Why do so many of us feel this disconnect, even when our lives seem complete? Jung had a profound explanation for this. He said that our modern society, focused on materialism and productivity, has distanced us from what is truly essential: contact with our psyche, our emotions, with what he called the totality of being. These questions open the way to a crucial point. What really lies behind this void that Claire and so many of us feel? Is it just fatigue, or is there something deeper, more spiritual at play? Now, let's return to Claire's story. At first, that glass of wine seemed harmless, a way to relax after a long day. But over time, she began to notice something strange. It was no longer a choice. It had become a necessity. The nights she didn't have access to that escape were unbearable, as if something in her mind couldn't stop searching for that small relief. This is what Carl Jung described as the beginning of the vicious cycle of addiction. For him, these repetitive behaviors arise from an attempt to alleviate psychological or existential suffering that would otherwise be intolerable. However, the relief is temporary, and the return to reality is even more painful, creating a spiral of dependence. Gabor Maté, another expert on addiction, describes this cycle simply: no matter how many times you satisfy a false need, it will never truly satisfy you. This concept is powerful because it reveals why addictions are so destructive. They don't solve the problem. They merely postpone facing it while deepening the void they attempt to fill. Think about how this manifests in our daily lives. Perhaps it's not a glass of wine, but a compulsive behavior like excessive social media use, constant shopping, or even relentless work. These actions might seem harmless, even healthy, but deep down, they are often masks to avoid addressing deeper issues. Claire, like so many, didn't realize the problem wasn't the wine or the routine. The problem was the disconnection from her innermost emotions. She needed to confront the pain she felt, of loneliness, of a lack of purpose. But that required the courage to look inward. Jung believed that without this courage, we remain trapped in the cycle, always seeking outside what can only be resolved within ourselves. Now ask yourself, is there something in your life that has become a cycle hard to break? Could it be that, like Claire, you too are seeking relief from something that, deep down, doesn't solve the real problem? The philosopher and psychologist William James said that some human experiences, like substance use, can offer a glimpse of transcendence. These experiences bring brief moments of relief and even joy, but, as he warned, they come at a high price. The promise of emotional liberation often turns into a trap, and what seemed like a solution becomes part of the problem. Carl Jung took this reasoning even further. He believed that when we lose ourselves in compulsive behaviors, we are actually searching for something sacred. For him, every addiction carries within it a misdirected spiritual quest. Addiction, whether to substances, work, or any other behavior, is a reflection of our attempt to find meaning in a world that often disconnects us from ourselves. This idea connects deeply with European philosophy and universal spirituality. Think of the concept of ataraxia from the ancient Stoics, a state of unshakable tranquility. According to the Stoics, the path to inner peace isn't about yielding to fleeting pleasures, but about finding balance within oneself. Similarly, Jung argued that we need to integrate all aspects of our psyche, our light and our shadows, to achieve true wholeness. And this is where the vicious cycle becomes even more apparent. Every time we seek external relief, we move further away from what truly matters. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called this despair of disconnection, when the human soul drifts from its essence by trying to avoid pain. This is why addictive behaviors are so destructive. They keep us stuck on the surface, while true healing lies in the depths. So, how do we break this cycle? The answer lies in what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole. It's not about eliminating our shadows or weaknesses, but about acknowledging them and learning from them. It's a path of self-knowledge that requires courage, but it frees us from the prisons we create for ourselves. At this point, it's important to reflect. What are we really seeking when we indulge in these cycles? Is it pleasure? Is it relief? Or is it something deeper, an attempt to reconnect with who we truly are? If philosophy and spirituality teach us anything, it's that the solution to human dilemmas is never in the external world, but within us. Carl Jung believed that the first step to breaking any vicious cycle is awareness. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." But how do we bring awareness to these issues? This is where spirituality plays a crucial role. Jung considered the concept of individuation a path of integration, where we don't deny our shadows, but accept them as part of who we are. This is a process of confronting, rather than avoiding, the emotions that made us seek escape. To understand this better, let's go back to Claire. She realized her habits weren't just ways to relax. They masked something deeper: loneliness and a sense of purposelessness. Inspired by Stoic philosophy, Claire began a simple yet powerful exercise: daily reflection. Each night, she'd ask herself, what truly brought me satisfaction today? What was an escape and what was growth? Over time, she began to notice patterns and recognize moments when she was running from something instead of facing it. Furthermore, spirituality brought another essential tool: the practice of mindfulness. This approach, used in Zen Buddhism and modern practices alike, teaches us to observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment, allowing us to find a space between impulse and reaction. Think about it. Instead of automatically turning to escape, what if we paused, took a deep breath, and faced the discomfort? Jung believed this confrontation was essential for transformation. As he said, "The most difficult task is not to run from what we fear in ourselves." And here lies the great promise. When we face our shadows and learn to live with them, something extraordinary happens. What was once a burden becomes a source of strength. Philosophy and spirituality show us that pain is not an enemy to be avoided, but a teacher that can guide us towards self-knowledge and ultimately towards peace. Now it's our turn to reflect. What practices can help us bring more awareness and balance into our lives? The answer isn't universal, but the starting point is always to look inward and question what we are truly seeking. Carl Jung believed that addictive behaviors are not just signs of distress, but also clues to what we need to feel whole. He said, "What we deny weakens us. What we accept transforms us." But how can we transform the search for relief from suffering into something that gives us purpose and meaning? It all begins with reconnection. Reconnection with yourself, with your emotions, and with what truly matters. For many, this reconnection can be facilitated by practices like meditation, philosophical contemplation, or daily rituals that help create meaning. Let's return to Claire's example. When she began to realize that her habits weren't solving the real problem, she decided to change her approach. Instead of constantly seeking to escape discomfort, Claire adopted a simple but transformative approach. She began to acknowledge and embrace her emotions. In moments when she felt empty, she would ask herself, "What are my body and mind trying to tell me right now?" This process, which may seem small, is actually profoundly philosophical and spiritual. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus already said that it's not external events that disturb us, but the way we react to them. Likewise, Jung emphasized that the key to transformation lies in accepting our shadow, the parts of ourselves we avoid or reject. Over time, Claire replaced cycles of escape with cycles of construction. She found purpose in small, daily actions, like spending more time in nature, revisiting an old hobby, and seeking deeper connections with people around her. This doesn't mean she never felt the void again, but now she understands that this emptiness is an opportunity to grow and reconnect. And have you ever stopped to think about what you could transform in your routine? What practices could help you redirect your energy towards something that truly nourishes you, instead of just masking discomfort? Overcoming vicious patterns is more than a psychological challenge. It's a spiritual journey. Carl Jung believed that to break self-destructive cycles, one must first awaken consciousness. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This means looking inward and confronting the shadows we've avoided for so long. This journey begins with a fundamental reflection. What led me to this behavior? When we identify the triggers that drive us towards destructive habits, we take the first step towards transforming our relationship with ourselves. Sharing your experiences and reflections can help not only you, but also others facing similar challenges. What insight from this exploration sparked something within you? Share your reflections below. Let's go back to Claire. She realized that loneliness and feelings of disconnection were the true drivers of her compulsive behaviors. By accepting this, she found a new path, replacing escape with confrontation. With the support of friends, spiritual practices, and a deep desire for change, Claire began to create new routines based on self-knowledge and self-care. For Jung, this is individuation, the process of integrating all parts of the psyche, light, and shadow into a totality that allows us to live authentically. This process frees us from dependence on external solutions and reconnects us with our deepest essence. Now ask yourself, what am I avoiding that could actually make me stronger? Perhaps the answer lies in the shadows you haven't yet faced, but which hold the potential for the transformation you're seeking. While Jung highlighted the importance of individual consciousness, Gabor Maté reminds us of another essential pillar for overcoming cycles of addiction: social support and community. Reconnection. In a society that so highly values individuality, we forget that we are by nature deeply social beings. Research shows that isolation is one of the main factors perpetuating addictive behaviors, but together we can build bridges. If this content resonated with you, hit like and subscribe to continue this journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration. When we feel disconnected from others, the human brain seeks to fill that void in unhealthy ways. But there is hope. Even at advanced ages, as Maté points out, the human brain has an extraordinary capacity to restructure and heal itself. With the right support, it's possible to rebuild your life, replacing destructive habits with meaningful connections. For Claire, this meant seeking a support circle. She found small community gatherings and reconnecting with old friends to be a renewed source of energy and purpose. Jung also saw spirituality as a powerful path towards this reconnection, not necessarily a religion, but a practice that connects us with the universe and with what gives life meaning. And here is the invitation. What can you do today to reconnect? Whether with a friend, a greater purpose, or a spiritual practice that inspires you, this can be the first step towards lasting transformation. As Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. May this journey be an awakening, not just to overcome addictions, but to live with fullness and purpose.